Hey guys, Thomas Jr. here, aka Mustached, and I'm here to review In the Tall Grass. So this movie was a bit bizarre, and it's a Stephen King movie, so it's kind of like, okay, I can kind of see where that would fit. Um, so we follow this brother and sister named Cal and Becky, or Beck. Um, and they are driving through whatever state they're in, where there are grasslands and the grass is super high. But I do know that they were traveling to San Diego, so wherever they were coming from to San Diego. Anyway, so they go for a little pit stop, and then the wife, Becky or Beck, hears a child call out to her from the grass. So she looks out and she feels prompted to go into the grass and check in. This woman is with child throughout the movie. This movie definitely has an element to it, and I'll get to that a little bit later, but it does get a little confusing, so stay with me. Okay, so they head into the grass. Both Cal goes in there first, and then she enters in as well. So she's trying to call 911, and she's already getting bad reception. So phone already put that check mark and threw it out the window. Good job. So while in the tall grass, since Cal already was up ahead, primarily they already are split up. And when they try to sing to each other, or like they're trying to talk to each other, they're trying to get back to one of each other pretty quickly, and they decide that they're going to try jumping twice to see each other. And the first time they do successfully see each other. The second time they jump, only Beck jumps, and we don't see where Cal is from his position. This leads to the immediate, oh, this is what's going on here. So I'll say this to save some time. The grass apparently moves locations of people as they are to do. So yes, we see that Cal, we follow him for a bit. He sees like a dead dog. That'll come into effect later on, trust me. And then we see this character, I believe his name, I wrote Tobin's dad, but I think later on I caught his name. But for now, I'll just leave it at that. Arrives on the scene. Tobin is the child who we heard calling out, by the way. So, Beck joins Tobin's dad as they bump into each other in the grass. And we cut over tonight where Tobin, the son, bumps into Cal. And according to this child, he says that the tall grass knows everything. And for Cal to follow him, so he does so. Oh yes, I did write it here. So the father's name is Ross. And he's traveling with Beck, and they're talking about her baby. And she sees some drugs on the floor. It's very weird that that's there, but it comes into effect later, trust me. And then she loses Ross at some point after like being stalled by the drugs for a long time. And then something comes out. What that something is, I'm still not really sure. It was really quick, but it grabs Beck. So we jump over to Cal and Tobin, who enter what we are going to call the center of this area, which in it is a huge rock. And he starts to hear Cal being Becky scream, so he wants to head back in, so he does, before touching the rock. So we cut to Travis, who is the boyfriend of Beck. He's like traveling, trying to get to them. And he sees the car, and it looks like it's already old, like it's been there for a while. And he heads over and he sees this church. He goes inside. And then it's locked, but he sees like her book at the the section of like right before the tall grass. So he tries to be wise as he moves about, trying to tie the grass to get his positioning. But as we see, as he passes through far enough, the grass starts to move on its own and untie itself. So that was kind of pointless. He looks up at the sun, and it's on this side, and then he looks back down for a while, and then he looks back up to see that the sun is now on the opposing side. So that happens, and then, again, this implies some sort of time travel that is going to come into play really shortly. So we cut to nighttime, and he's about to rest his head, and then Tobin finds him. So Travis follows Tobin about, and he brings him over to this corpse, the corpse of one Beck, the girlfriend. So he's freaking out, he's crying, obviously, and then Tobin just vanishes from his sight. We cut to the morning with Travis picking her locket, and I believe at this point Tobin already had said that the grass does not move the dead people, so that's why he's still within the vicinity. Now, that does lead to this movie's unfortunate biggest plot hole. You see, if I were an individual and if I heard that, I would, and as whatever you want to call it, bad as it would seem to be, I would probably just pick up the dead body and carry it with me. I think that would negate possibly the grass moving around you if you have dead on you. I don't know. That they never tried it in the movie, so I can't say for sure, but that does seem like a huge plot hole that they didn't cover, so I'm going to point it out. So anyways, he picks her locket, and then he starts, moving again. So we cut, and this is how we know time travel is confirmed. We see Tobin arrive, and now he's on the outside of the grass, and he's with the dog, so we know the dog belonged to Tobin, and we see how he entered into the forest now. And this is happening after. So the dog runs in, and then Tobin runs in, and now we have Ross, who is the father, run in after him, and then his wife run after them as well. So Tobin heads in, and he's looking for the dog named Freddy. And we see that Ross is, also moving in. Nighttime comes pretty fast. Time travel, again, I'm pretty sure that imposes time like nothing else. So we follow Ross for a bit. He gets to the center pretty quickly. And then we cut back to the start, though, with the first couple, Beck and Cal. But remember, Beck was already dead, so we time traveled back to when Beck was alive. And we see them arrive back into the starting location. And we cut back to Travis after that, arriving back on the scene, which is bizarre. Or, no, he's still in there. He's still in the grass. He just bumps into a pre-dead Beck and a Cal. So now the three of them are separated and they're talking to each other. And Tobin starts talking, and now all four of them start talking, trying to find each other. And this time they actually managed to do it. All four of them actually managed to get to the same location somehow. And Tobin sees a building in the distance when Travis picks him up above the tall grass. So they start traveling, the four of them. And as they are traveling, Carl gets a call from an unknown caller. Um, it sounds like it's one of them talking to themselves. I think that's what was supposed to be implied, but the voice was too, like, it was too hard to make out, unfortunately, and I do think that's a bit of a weak point. I think it should be able to pick out at least the voice. Anyway, we cut to an eye staring at them. So someone is watching them, and we don't know who it is. So the four of them continue to travel, and then Beck is having some issues with the baby. The blood is, she's getting there. So they obviously go back to her, make sure she's all right, and then Ross comes out of the grass. So now all five of them, and Tobin gets to reunite with his father. But unfortunately, due to all this commotion, Tobin loses the building that they had in sight. So Ross tells them that going in a straight path is kind of pointless, and he starts like singing, and then he starts like talking to Travis about his band stuff, and they're bonding, I guess. And Ross makes his way to the center. All of them do, back to where that rock was, and Ross touches the rock. I believe he's the first one to touch the rock. Excuse me. So Cal is stopped by from touching the rock as well, because Ross is like tempting him to do so, by Tobin's mom. And Becky has some bizarre visions as this is going on, and the mom is like throughout this blaming Ross, by the way, of like, you're gonna kill us or you're gonna hurt us or something like that. So Becky, Cal, and Travis are freaking out, so they want nothing more to do with this. And Ross is like losing his mind because he touched the rock and it made him think like he was like a god or something. And Tobin manages to get across, but the wife does not. And the forest stops moving at that point. So Travis tackles Ross, who killed his own wife at this point. And the son obviously is like, doesn't want anything left to do with his own dad. Again, kills her, so that's that. Speaking of time travel, when Tobin is like fleeing from this, he finds the dog alive and he starts chasing it, and the others are sort of chasing it as well. And the dog brings them to this bowling alley where the four of them and the dog like gets sort of stays behind, I guess, lock themselves in this little bowling alley. So this is where all the tensions come to rise, as Cal blames Travis for everything, like, you abandoned the girl, you abandoned your girlfriend, you wanted all this stuff, blah blah blah. So the two of them are fighting, but Ross is near on the trail, and so they start to freak out. So they start to head to the roof, and then they briefly see that the dog vanishes in from the grass, and then like where it pops out is actually out of the forest, or the grass. I keep wanting to say forest. We see that Cal lets go of Travis after like Travis is like at the edge of like this of the roof, and then like that part falls, and then Cal lets him go on purpose. And Tobin saw this, but kind of doesn't say anything at that moment. So Cal wants the sister to forget that Travis was even here, and at some point Travis, I forget where he mentions, this is like sort of like this incest vibe going on with the two. So we see Ross get up there and start to choke out Cal. as he runs back through the forest, and we see that no matter what he did, he would have gotten caught, as we see many dead bodies of various cows that have tried many different things. So we cut back to Travis, who wakes up back in the grass, gets back into the grass. Becky's in pain already in the grass. And Becky was going. If we learn about all this stuff about how Becky was going to give up the baby, like she's like talking to him even though they're separated. They almost touch hands, but Ross grabs Becky though instead. So Becky fights back, stabbing him in one of his eyes, and it starts to rain at this point. So Beck starts seeing as she flees some tall figures in the grass, like these masked figures. And they lift her up and they bring her back to the rock. And we see very clearly what has the mocking of the rock and the symbolism of like, oh, there must be a baby born here or something. So the ground in front of her begins to crumble. There are various bodies in there already kind of crawling out or like suffering or doing whatever they're doing. And we see her sort of like hyperventilating or something, or like hallucinating Cal, and it ends up being Ross after some blood loss. And we cut back to Travis trying to get to her, and Tobin also arrives on the scene as they get back there to the rock. Travis calls out Ross, and then Ross stabs Travis, but not a death stab, but just a stab. So Tobin tries to run away, and then Beck gives up, gets up and takes out the other eye with this rock. So Travis touches the big rock, the one that has imposed all of this knowledge onto Ross, has now been transferred over to Travis as Travis finished Ross out by choking him. So we see that he can see all the different like vine points and locations and stuff like that. And he grabs Tobin. He says that to warn the others not to come in here, meaning time travel once again. So this is probably the most baffling teleport, is that he tosses Tobin up and then Tobin teleports inside the church, the one we saw earlier. So Tobin is brought back in time to the church. He gets outside, he sees Beck and Call arrive on the car, and he warns them. They hear his voice coming in the grass, so because he's still alive, I guess the grass is able to still keep using his voice. But he's able to convince Beck and Call to drive away, and they do so. And we cut to Travis passing out, and that's the end of the tall grass. And I do have a little bit of issue with that ending, considering that Call was kind of an asshole, and there again, that implied incest is kind of like, ugh. Again, I felt like there was a heavier redemption focusing on Travis, of like, he's trying to make up for leaving, he's trying to get back with his girlfriend, he's trying to make up for these past sins, and he's seeing as much of an asshole that Call is becoming, again, in that incestual way of like, oh, I want my own sister. I feel like it would make more sense for Call to be the one to touch the tree, or the rock, I should say, and then Travis be the one to escape with the kid and Beck. I don't know. I feel like that would feel better, I guess, in terms of like the happy ending. But we don't get a pure happy ending because Call gets to make it, and oh boy, because they're gonna be a family. So, I don't know, I'd give this movie... It's a little bit confusing to follow with the time travel, but, I think ending aside, I give it a 6 out of 10, I feel. Again, I'd probably switch the positions around a bit. And that's my review of In the Tall Grass. And if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye.